It is Farid Antone, right?
Yes.
Correct me.
I've known you 15 years,
I
I think.
understand. I understand. It is Farid Antone.
If I need to correct you.
You don't need to correct me. I just wanted to make sure that whoever is watching or listening to us, I don't butcher your name.
So are they watching and listening at the same time?
Well,
listening or watching. You get both options.
Well, listen, if you're watching and not listening, there's a problem.
It's the digital age. So you're not splitting this into audio format and video format.
Well, it is going to be on, in podcast form on all the platforms, Apple Music, Spotify.
Oh boy, that's the pressure.
Why is there pressure?
I'm just kidding.
You can do this.
Yeah. No, it's not that. Pressure on you.
There's zero pressure, man.
What do you do? Do you have like one unit that just
I'm
fires
ready.
off
I'm ready for
all
this.
The platforms?
All kidding aside, listen, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate
it. Thank you for having me.
I know how busy you are, and it sounds like you had a heck of a day today.
Oh, God, yeah, another one. Good one.
Yeah, well, that's good.
To be busy.
I mean, I'll take busy over not busy any day of the week, right?
Absolutely.
Just to give the audience some background, on who you are, what you do.
Yeah.
First of all, you're originally from Lebanon.
Yeah.
But there's a connection to Africa. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because that's an interesting twist.
It is an interesting twist.
We'll go back to Lebanon in a bit, but I want to know more about the African.
Do you want a short version of this, or
man?
I think we need to do a long version just to fill in.
Go to town. No, sir. It's very interesting. I find it fascinating. I know there's في جالي بأفريقيا.
Okay, so في جالي لبناني وين ما كان بالعالم.
Okay.
Lebanese would like to spread our wings.
Of course.
So my parents were in Nigeria. I mean, my dad was born there.
Okay.
So technically, I'm Nigerian and proud Nigerian as well.
Nice. But you weren't born there, right?
No, I wasn't. I'm the only one not born there, actually. My brothers were born there. Yeah, so we were in Lebanon, and then I was raised during the war in Lebanon.
Yeah.
So it got really bad. And, we had to leave because the bombs started to fall nearby.
How old were you at that time?
11. Yeah. So growing up, that was a big part of my life, actually, between 4 and 11, to be in a war-torn country, not realizing it's a war-torn country because you grew up thinking this is normal.
Yeah.
It wasn't normal. So when you, in the West, you had kids who were counting sheep to sleep. We'd count bombs and missiles. We did. Literally.
I don't mean to laugh, but it's
it's from that context. It's funny, but at the time, we didn't understand fear at the time. Sure. So I was in boarding school in a war-torn country.
Were you in Beirut proper at that?
Just above Beirut, yeah. But we could see Beirut. So in fact, on the weekends, the ones who stayed in the school, because it was a massive school, it was a huge campus. Yep. So we owned the school on the weekend. We'd take our sandwiches or juices or whatever it was, and we'd go to the top of the building and watch the war.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Like it was a movie.
Like we didn't, you don't understand.
Real versus.
You don't understand how scary it is, but we didn't understand what fear is.
Yep.
So to us, it was like, hang on a second, let's go up, we're going to go watch the action. Oh, there's nothing happening this weekend. Why?
Yeah.
It should have been that space. And then as you grow up, you realize it was just a crazy place. So, but it was very interesting because you learn to depend on yourself. So many things. It's not something I would advise parents to do, but I would never do that with my kids now, obviously. Sure. But, hey, kids, I'm sending you to Kosovo.
Yeah, right.
So, you learn to understand reality from a very early age.
Yep.
Some of the stuff that they don't teach in schools these days, which I would love to see reality being taught, just the reality of life. I think kids these days, I can't complain about kids these days. They're having a tough time, having to put masks every day.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Being explained what a virus is.
Yeah,
it's insane. It's crazy. I feel sorry for this generation coming up. So you learn that. And then we had to go to Nigeria, which was a complete culture shock for me.
Yeah,
but I integrated very fast, made a lot of friends, which I'm still in contact with today.
Yeah. We talked a few months ago about that.
Correct. So we still are in contact. Just before I walked in here, I was speaking with one of my friends.
Why Nigeria, if you don't mind me asking?
Because my parents were there. Okay. So my parents had a business there. Like I said, my dad was born there. Yeah. So this was more like his country, really, Nigeria. Yeah. And the Nigerian people, just let me make this very clear to the rest of the world who don't know what Nigeria is. The people are very nice people. They're very welcoming. They want a chance in life, and they do that. And the image of Nigeria to the rest of the world is not what it is. It's a lot better.
Other than the scams and all that stuff.
Every country has a scam.
Of course, no, I get that. But, like with the whole Nigerian spam chain and all that.
This comes to marketing, really.
Of course, no. But I want to know, is there a misconception
absolutely.
About Nigerians? I mean, obviously, listen, there's good and bad in every country, right?
Yeah.
But is there a bigger misconception about Nigeria that you think is a complete falsehood?
It's probably blown up 100 times over. So that's what I meant by, I don't mean marketing as in the, the literal way.
Yep.
It's just that every country has problems,
Sure.
but those problems were the most elevated ones around the world, probably the most successful ones.
Yeah, right.
So that's why it's stuck in people's mind. It's the sticking point, which in media we used to do a lot. You need to have a sticking point anywhere. So people have the wrong perception of Nigeria. It's the people are wonderful. Nigerians who are around the world, a lot of them are very successful.
Yep.
A lot of them actually had another nationality, ended up playing football for the English team, for example. Even in the US, they're in American football, basketball. Mm-hmm. So yes, Nigerians need to be given a chance and not just, be told that we don't written off or anything. Give them a chance. They will perform well. They will give you results. They just need a break. And I grew up between 11 and 19 almost. So I grew up in that environment, and I integrated in every cultural aspect.
Were you in the capital?
No, I was all over. I was mostly in the north. It was kind of a suburban area. Suburban in Nigeria is about 5 million people. Right. Just
right, bigger than most metropolitan
But into context
areas,
here, So 5 million people is a suburb in Nigeria. Yeah. The capital is about 20 million, the commercial capital, which is Lagos. So that's where I learned a lot about African music there. And a lot of the culture, and how it's interesting how you learn how the culture affected music in the US as well.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of history written about that. And I just love mixing with different cultures. So after that, it was the US, it was Lebanon again, by mistake, I have to admit.
So you went from Nigeria straight to the US?
I went to Lebanon then to US. So it was back and forth for quite a while. And just basically moving around the world at one point.
Career-wise, what were you doing there? Because I'm interested to find out how you got into media or the creative.
That happened in Lebanon.
After Nigeria?
Yeah, after Nigeria. That happened. The full, the actual full-time work, if you like, the career orientation of that was Lebanon.
And I'm also
that happened by mistake. That was a complete fluke.
I'm interested in how and why you got into...
Some of the best things happen by mistake.
I don't necessarily believe in mistakes, but
not a mistake.
I'll take it. Not planned. Like,
I shouldn't call it a mistake.
Not planned.
It's what's the word people keep using around? They keep using them as memes. Destiny. I don't like to use the word destiny. I hate cliches. Serendipity. Let's go with that one.
Okay.
So as you can probably tell, some of you listening on audio, that this guy is probably a voiceover, and that's how it started. So I got there May 15 on vacation. I was only going for like a few weeks. And I hadn't been there as an adult in Lebanon.
Since you'd left?
Since I'd left. So it was another culture shock moving back.
Oh, and I can imagine.
Lebanon has just come out of a war, and 3 years later is still fresh. So
before we go there, had you interacted with many Lebanese or Arabs in Nigeria?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. You mix with a lot of nationalities in Nigeria.
Sure.
There was a lot of Arab community there, Lebanese as well. So in Lebanon, got there May 15. May 16, my cousin says, hey, listen, let's just go for a road trip. Not a road, let's go for a drive. Yeah. And he was launching a nightclub that day.
Okay.
My cousin Sal. And he was only about 19. He just did his first venture. It was a nightclub. It was up in the mountains. And he said, we need to go to a local radio station and promote it. I said, sure, I'll go with you, of course. I just got there. I don't know what's going on.
But you knew nothing about radio? Or
No, I had some inkling. And I'll tell you how that kind of, how practice sort of leads you to a destiny, if you like. Yeah. And I'll reverse back to that.
Okay, sure.
So we went up to this radio station up in the mountains. I mean, there was no paved road. It was like rocks, literally climbing over the rocks. We get there, and it covered the whole of North Lebanon at the time. And at the time, which is brilliant, much better than now, actually, they had no licenses in Lebanon. So the radios, radio and television, media in general was not... it wasn't properly controlled. It wasn't properly,
licensed.
Licensed. Yeah. So
Wild West. I mean,
Wild
this
West.
is post-war Lebanon.
You could go to your balcony, stick an antenna, and if it worked, and you call your cousin in Tripoli, can you hear me? Yes. All right, then it's working.
You have a radio.
You have a radio.
Right.
So that's basically what happened. So we went up there, but this radio was like the most proper of the pirated radios.
Got it.
And was
it saturated at the time with radios?
Oh, of course it was. It was saturated, yeah. But this was the most radio that covered the whole of the North.
Sure.
And I had no idea what stations existed at the time. So we went up there. He said, I'm promoting the nightclub today.
Yep.
4 to 6 show afternoon. And we got there at 3:30. We got there nice and early, And we're having a chat with the station manager. So he's seated on my right. My cousin is seated on my left. I'm just, listening. And my Arabic wasn't so good at the time. And they were just talking back and forth. We're talking about things. I'm just listening there. And it got to 4 o'clock. DJ doesn't show up. Again, for a lot of people, DJ is the guy who goes on the air.
Yeah.
So 4 o'clock, he doesn't show up. And my cousin gets really nervous here. He's like, hey, what's going on? We need to do this. And if I don't promote, the show today, we're opening tonight, what's going to happen? And the manager was like, profusely, apologizing and all that. There were no cell phones at the time. So he calls, landline, he's not there. The guy disappears. He's in Tripoli. We're up in the mountains somewhere.
Yeah.
And he's not going to get there in like an hour. So he gets nervous. He's trying to, tell him, I'll give you another hour of airtime. And 4:30, the guy still doesn't show up. And my cousin goes, no, listen, we got to do this right now. And the guy goes, I have no other DJ.
Yeah.
And then they both looked at me. This is like a Tarantino set here, a scene. And they just both looked at me at the same time. And I could read their minds. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Type of thing. And they said, Farid, you're going to have to do this. I didn't even hesitate. I just said, let's just do this. Yeah.
Why you though? Why did they pick you?
Because I spoke a few words of English and the show was in English. And they said,
got it. Okay.
The guy thought I had good English. Yeah. I don't know what he was thinking, but he was Australian. I remember that.
Yeah.
He kept saying, you got some good English there. And he spoke a bit of Arabic with that. So he was like, it was going like that. And I just was happy to listen to him. I just wanted to listen to this guy speak all afternoon. I was like, I just wanted to hear that accent because it was hilarious for me. It was really interesting. So we go on the air. It's 4:30, and like every Lebanese plan, they said, let's plan this out properly. Here's what's going to happen. Here's what we're going to do. And by 4:31...
Okay.
I saw the red light go on, and the sound. I remember there was a sound engineer at the time. You couldn't self DJ, and obviously I didn't want to do that day. There was a sound engineer.
Someone was running the board.
The weirdest hair. I'll never forget this. I'm still in touch with this guy, by the way, George. He's still here, actually. He goes back and forth.
Yeah.
There was a guy called George, another guy called Teddy, and they both had weird hair. I'll never forget this. George, if you're listening to this, well, you've lost your hair now, but the sides, they still look the same. You just have to grow the middle part. So they went on the air, and they said, just say something. And I did. And it was pretty cool, actually. It wasn't so bad. I liked it. And then we went to do a song, and they said, all right, that was good. You see, and the manager thought, we're saved. And calls started to come in on the landline.
How much talk versus radio was this at that point? Talk versus music.
Versus music. Yep. It was kind of 50-50 in a way, which is a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah,
that's
radio,
a lot.
For radio, yes.
Yeah. So we did that. It went well. I found myself very comfortable with it. And here's why. That's when it hit me 5 minutes into the show. Let's go back 3 years earlier. I'm in Nigeria. I had a full set in my room. Tape decks.
Okay.
The 45s. Yeah. I had all that. I had a microphone.
Yeah.
There was no internet back then.
Yeah.
There was no satellite TV.
There was nothing.
It was either you go out and you do sports, you ride a bike, you play football, which is how it should be. Kids and parents who keep their kids with their iPads.
Good luck with that.
That's how it should be, exactly. And either that or something you did at home. I did that. I did both, but that became a big part. So I pretended I had my own radio station.
What was the seed for that?
Boredom. And it's just, you know what? It's just something comes out of you sometimes naturally.
Sure.
My kids were born singing. They just loved singing because I love singing.
No, I get that part. Did you idolize someone that was on air at the time?
No.
Was there a TV presenter or a presenter that you looked up to? I'm just wondering if there was something that
something triggered. No. You don't have to look up to someone to figure out your inner passion.
The reason I ask is I always, for me, it was very clear. Like whether it's music or any other discipline I've got myself into, there's usually an event that I can identify as something that, whether it became a calling or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if, and it might not be the same for you in this case.
It wasn't, because I wasn't in America, for example. I wasn't in Europe, where you have a lot of media consumption going on at the time, where people spend most of the time in front of television. No, we were not. We're in a place where you had to literally do something with friends. You had to go out. You had to speak to real people. And that was the good part about it. But I don't know, I just found it natural. Because you see a microphone, you have the whole set there. Sure. What do you do with a microphone? You speak into the microphone, right? If you give a kid a football, he's going to kick it. First, he's going to try with his hands, and he's going to try to kick it and figure out, wait a minute, this is better, more fun if I kick it.
So the question is, how did you get your hands on a microphone? Did your parents buy it for you? Did you go out and buy it on your own?
There was a microphone. My dad had a club at the time, a restaurant and a club, and he'd closed the club. And, what did we do with all this equipment? I just took it back. I was like, hey, you know what, let me have this.
The reason I'm asking is because short of having that, I mean, that facilitated, because if that equipment hadn't been around, I'm not saying that that's the reason, but it obviously created
it does. Some
sort of environment for you to then, try and,
That's why you should never put weapons in a room with the kids.
I haven't tried that, but I'll take that down as a what not to do.
That's why I'm anti-weapons, of any sort. So that's what you do. You put a kid with a book, he's going to read. You put a kid with music, he's going to listen to it. You put him with a football, he's going to play football. That's how it goes. This is how human beings are. It's in our DNA. You put a kid in front of a computer, and they end up being programmers at some point. Sure. Which is what happened with my brother, actually. Yeah. Became a top programmer. Yeah. And moved on to better things. But, you do that, and that's the path, if you like.
Yeah. So we're back in Lebanon. You're at this radio station.
So I was back then. So I was doing this for 2-3 years.
From that fateful day.
No. For 2-3 years before in Nigeria. Got it. Back in my room, I was perfecting this for 2-3 years, and I'm a Virgo. I'm like was born perfectionist. I'm either in or I'm not. Yep. Whatever it is. So I either want to do things really good. I don't want to call it perfect. There's nothing called perfect. You always want to perfect it. You either want to do it really good or you just don't touch it. So I kept doing that for 2 years. And now, improving and listening, you have to listen to yourself. So all you budding DJs or presenters out there, listen and watch yourself. That's very important. Very critical you do that.
Yeah, of course.
So you do that. And for 2-3 years, I kept listening to myself and perfecting them and creating radio stations, putting together fake radio stations. You create a radio station in your mind, and you want to have something to talk about. So I did that in my room back in Nigeria. I had stations called Star.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
We'll come back to that.
This is in 1991, 92. Okay. All the way back then. I had other names, Power FM or whatever it was. And I would do jingles I thought, how can I get someone to do jingles? But then I started doing them with my voice.
Was radio big in Nigeria?
It wasn't. It's not like I was listening to local radio.
I was just wondering if there was a radio scene in Nigeria.
My brothers were sending me a lot of tapes from the U.S.
Okay.
They would,
they were in the U.S. at that time?
They were in the U.S. They had been there for like 5-6 years. That's it. They would send me tapes, a lot of tapes. That was the trigger, now that I think about it.
That's important. I mean, look, I'm not trying to uncover or unpack this stuff, but it all, it's a culmination of these of all these little things that.
Yeah, it is. It has to be. You need to have, I would call it the inspiration or something to, sort of, oh, that sounds good. I don't want to copy it. Yeah. I want to have my own signature, but I get it. It works. You need to have a case study that works. You need to be inspired by that and reach in and sort of bring it out.
So since you said inspiration, other than radio, it doesn't have to be where you ended up. Did you have early childhood heroes? Anyone you looked up to? Whether it could be
hero?
Your dad.
You see,
it could be your dad.
People. Oh, definitely, my dad was a hero for sure.
I don't mean like I just mean like a role model. When I say hero, I'm not talking superhero. I'm talking like that looks like fun. this might be something I might want to do when I'm older.
It's kind of weird. I looked at things. I looked at people. I wasn't really affected by in any positive way by people. It was always moments.
Okay.
It was experiences and moments.
Expand on that.
So, for example, there are moments you remember as a child. You remember them. For example, the first time you scored a goal playing football. You
Sure.
like playing football. I love playing football. So I will never forget that first time, even if it was like, in a field somewhere. You remember it because that gave you the confidence to, I want to score a second goal. I can do this better. It's that trigger. That's the tipping point. That's where it starts. Whether it's kicking the ball into the net, or in this case, between two stones or two jackets, or if it's the first time you recorded something and you felt, wow, this is not bad. You want to do it better.
Sure.
Those are the moments I'm talking about. So there were no actual role models to go, oh, that's good. Keep doing that. And this is great. And that sort of push. No.
I'm not necessarily talking mentors in terms of someone that
or
encouraged
someone
you to
just,
something.
yeah.
I'm just saying as an observer.
As an observer, yeah. So the first person I was in boarding school. So at the time you're just seeing your classmates or people, who are with you in that, and the fellow boarders, if that's what they call them. And then I was with my parents. So obviously you're seeing your parents and then you pick up from that. I saw how hardworking my dad was. And he was such an entrepreneur. He would come up with these ideas in like a matter of days and just put it together. That I learned from him.
Okay. That's very important because as we scan forward, that I think that'll factor in quite a bit.
That is massive. He got stuff done. He got it done.
That's important.
He's never the type of person. I learned that from him. And much later, I remember that as well. But that is something I didn't think about when I was a kid and go, oh, things need to be get done. You have a good idea, get it done, believe in it. I never thought about it at the time.
Sure.
It was habits. This is another thing when you talk about how human beings develop habits. And they go, why do they do this? It's habit you develop. So he developed a habit in us without us realizing. You realize it more when you have kids.
Yeah, I mean.
So as soon as I had kids, I was like, oh, I was picking on that. I was like, oh God, he was doing that without me realizing it. For example, I love football. So he got me books about football. It wasn't because it's a football book. He wanted me to read.
There's a discipline in reading.
There's a discipline. He wanted me to get used to reading. So he got me the books that I love to read. He got my brother books about software development, coding. Parents need to have this eye, and not just parents, even people who look out for talent. You look out for talent. You need to recognize the talent in your kids or your family or friends or whatever. Or if you're mentoring someone, you need to realize that talent. It could be, almost, just appearing, if you like. But you need to nurture that. You shouldn't kill the talent. Don't ever kill the talent.
I mean,
I've seen a lot of parents whose kids want to sing and they go, finish, get your degree first.
That's a reflection of how they were raised.
Yeah,
it's a lot of...
I'm not with that. Yes, kids should get a degree. Yeah, all of that. But if there's a talent there, nurture it. It's there for a reason. It's not there to be shot at.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that was happened. So he was the kind of man who was very sharp, very smart, and he just knew what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
He never hesitated. It wasn't like, oh, should I do this? I'm not sure about it. No, he knew exactly that's what I need to do. Here's what I want to do, and here's how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And I remember I have so many of his books that he wrote notes in. He had so much planning done in such a cool way that I picked up from that. It wasn't like, oh, this is the business plan and here's how. No, he was like, what do I need to do to go from point A to point B? B is launching this. I have an idea.
Did you observe that? Did you observe that as a kid?
Yes.
Okay, so was it something that
was the best lesson actually.
Was he like, come here, son, let me show you something?
No.
Out of were you a curious kid?
Yeah, I was curious, but he was so smart that he didn't have to tell you, I want to show you something. No, he was like, he knew. If he knew you were observing, he didn't say anything.
Gave you your space.
He just knew that, oh, he's sponging it is what we call. He's the sponge. He's taking it in. And I went up to him when I was 13. I said, I want to work with you.
Yeah.
Me and my brothers were like, we want to work with you. So he didn't say, oh, what? And no, we were still in school, but we had time. We had time at the time.
Yeah.
At the time. Man, the internet and the digital age killed so many dreams people have no idea about.
For sure.
It's a new whole world.
For
but
sure.
At the time, he said, sure. What do you want to do? He didn't say, oh, I want you to do this.
Yeah.
Never said that.
He had a genuine interest to find out what it is you want to do.
What are you interested in?
Yeah.
He had like 4 or 5 businesses. What are you interested in? And we did. And it was really cool. The best mentor you can ever have. So that was really cool. Never pressured us, never said, what do you do? Never screamed at, how could you do? No, it was really cool. And it was I learned that from him, how to get the best out of people without really making it look so obvious.
Sure.
And he did encourage you, and he did say nice things when they needed to be said, but he had an eye without making it obvious, making it look obvious that he had his eye on you.
I'm big on approach.
That's all management techniques.
It's approach. No, for sure,
These
man.
are all management techniques.
Approach is king. Tone is king. Yeah. You know, I don't know what the statistic is, but 90% of all problems are based on tone of voice as opposed to what's being said. You know what I mean? So the approach is
interesting. You say
good.
that because some people have asked me a lot of times, when you're pissed off, what do you do? Do you scream or do you? I go, most of the time I lower my tone and I'll look you in the eye and I'll go, what happened? That has more effect than screaming at someone. Approach,
man, it's king. Yeah. Let's close the loop real quick on the radio. Let's go back to Lebanon.
Oh, yeah. So that happened. That show happened. And I like the fact we're hopping from one thing to another.
It's okay. I mean, it's storytelling all the way here.
So that happened. And then the manager called up that DJ and he let him go. He let him go. And he asked me, I was sad to see that happen, actually. And he asked me, he invited me to come back the week after. And it just took off from there. One show became 2 shows. It became 3 shows on a weekend. And
this is during a quote unquote vacation,
pure vacation.
Right.
And voiceovers started. And yes, of course, I've heard commercials, but I don't remember the first one, to be honest.
How old were you at this point?
20, 21.
Okay. And was your voice as deep?
It was like this.
It was like that.
It was almost like that.
How old were you when it flipped from hi mom to hi mom?
It was never hi mom. That's the thing. I was born with this. Okay. We have it. It runs in the family. Okay, my dad's side.
Okay. Gotcha.
So you could be, someone would call you at home and go, hello, how are you? I'm good. Who's this? I'm your cousin, Jerry.
Yeah.
Jerry, you're 6. I know.
Oh, okay, got it.
I don't have a cousin, Jerry, but there you go.
Yeah.
It was like that. So that happened. He invited me one week to another, and then I decided to stay. I got accepted in a really good college.
Okay.
Again, that was a fluke. I didn't even went for the entrance exam. Went well.
What specialty or what line of education specialty?
I knew I wanted to do media and management.
Okay.
That was it. I wasn't thinking, should I be a lawyer?
Okay.
Do I want to be a doctor? No. Engineering was completely not even on the list.
Okay.
So my list was media management. Bang. That was it.
So where did you go to school at that point?
It was in Lebanon. I had a chance to go to the US, but I said, no, I'm liking it here.
In Beirut.
Yeah. So I moved to Beirut now, and I'm living now in Beirut. Decided to stay there. And because you decide to stay there, you think, oh, it's fun. But at 20, 21, you're thinking, oh, wait a minute, I need to get an apartment and a car. And oh, God, what's going to happen now?
This is mid-90s.
You have to, this is mid-90s. Luckily, Lebanon was going through a really good phase.
It was flourishing at that.
It was flourishing. People wanted to party. Lebanese party during wartime. So they were partying even more now. Sure. And a lot of tourists were coming in. The country was opening up. Things were happening. And so I stayed there 5 years.
Okay.
Right. 5 years, 6 years.
You finished school at this point?
Got 2 degrees.
In
management and in liberal arts, which was a combination of media and marketing. I thought, hang on a second, you can mix and match? Yeah, it's an American system. You can do that. It follows the NYU curriculum. Okay.
And radio-wise, were you doing anything other than...
I was doing a lot of radio, and then I got into television.
Okay. Were you on air or behind the scenes?
Yeah, this is what happened. So I did they requested me to do a few TV shows, which I did.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
Why not?
I don't know. I just found myself... It's a strange feeling. Again, that first, radio the first time felt natural.
Yeah.
It was like the way I'm speaking now.
You were a bit more rehearsed, it sounds like.
TV, yeah, there was a lot more into it. There was the makeup. And there was, I've never done makeup in my life. Do I have to put makeup? Yeah, because the camera is going to pick up, that side of it, and it's going to elevate that, and you're going to look 10 kilograms more. I'm actually 70, folks, but I look 85 right now.
Blame it on COVID.
It was like that.
Yeah,
I'm blaming it on your fisheye angle.
We'll try to minimize the fisheye.
So
people can't see your weight on a podcast. So.
That's good. So that happened. I don't know. It felt weird, and it took forever. Radio, you just roll with it. It's smooth. It's a flow. With television, cut. Oh, what are we cutting? What's happening? Why? Because I understood the concept, but I don't know. There was so much cutting. We're talking about a 20-minute show that took 4 hours to shoot.
It's more edited. It's more thought out. It's more.
There's a lot of stop starts. Yep. You don't want that. You want it to be complete flow. Maybe it was the wrong director at the time. I think it was the wrong director at the time, because eventually I ended up directing and producing a lot of TV shows. I just let the camera roll.
What was the program? Do you remember?
It was a sports show.
Okay. Were you commentating?
Show. No, we did this really cool idea about presenting sports.
Okay.
So it was actually the first appearance was a DJ competition.
Okay.
On LBC. This was major pressure, first time.
Were you hosting at that point?
I was hosting. That was a World Championships. World Championships, like
in Lebanon.
Cool. Can we start with Beirut Championships?
I love it.
And move on to Lebanon?
So they started the trend before the NBA called it, or like World Champion.
No, but they did get the World Champions. They did actually get some guy from Chile, another guy from Spain. Lebanon was going through a really good period.
For sure. But
there was a guy that was the most famous DJ now in Lebanon is Raj.
Yeah.
DJ Raj.
So it was a DJ competition.
It was a DJ competition.
As in spinning? Spinning on...
Spinning. There was a lot of scratching and spinning, which to me made no sense at all. But I was just there to present. And there was this top director in Lebanon.
With a prize and everything? Like the first...
Yeah. They had obviously the cups and all of that.
Yep.
And the cups kept getting bigger for every position.
Sure.
Second place too.
Yeah.
So, and I was thinking, when does it end? Like, don't do the cup. Like, give him, I don't know, like gold-plated 45 or something. So they did that. That was interesting. That was the first TV show I presented. That was on LBC. That was, interesting.
Mid-90s or late 90s at this point?
No, mid. We're talking about actually 96, I think. Okay. 95. No, mid. Smack bang in the middle of it. And then after that, I was asked to do a sports show. And I did like 3 episodes. Couldn't stand it. And I felt more comfortable behind the camera. Sure. I wanted to produce. I just felt this natural need to produce. I had no problem being on the camera. It's fine.
Yep.
It's just, I don't know. I just didn't feel, I wasn't interested in it.
Okay. It sounds like you had a calling anyway, right?
It's you have to know what you want. You have to reach in and really, you have to really know what your inner consciousness wants you to do, what you want to do, what makes you tick.
Did you have the clarity at that point?
I was getting some clarity in this industry.
Yeah,
absolutely, yes. So I could see it. I don't want to be on screen.
Yeah,
I want to be behind the scenes. I want to produce. I want to direct.
Yeah,
and that's what I do today, by the way. So I love that. I wanted to produce and direct, nothing else. And making the odd appearance here and there, that's fine, but not to present. I just didn't find it exciting. I found it boring, actually.
Yeah.
And it was a good experience, though, because every talent I had in front of the camera, and then I ended up shooting like over 100, 200 TV shows. It was exciting stuff. Once, I call it the production line. Once you get the production line in your mind, once you get the ball rolling, you figure out, when you're there, you figure it out, all the vision in your mind, how it's going to be laid out. And you need to have an understanding and sort of clarify that understanding. The communication with your talent needs to be very clear. And you need to explain, this is what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And it's never the same. It's never the same point of view. It's never the same POV for the talent and the director. So you need to communicate that. So I understood what they were looking at and how they saw things. But my job was to make it look good and make it look even better. And how can I communicate that to the audience? That's the part that producers on radio or directors on television do not understand.
Yeah.
They focus on their own. They want to overdo a production. They want to overproduce it. They want to overdirect it. They want to put a lot of stuff that don't really make sense to the message. or to the overall look and feel.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about the audience. You have to put yourself on the couch. Put yourself on the couch. How would you watch this? In fact, what I did once in 1995 when I was doing a radio show, I decided with the owner of the station, I said, listen, let's record the whole show today. I want to listen to it in my car like everybody else. I really need to be on the other side. We did that. We said, let's just do 1 hour instead of the 2. Let's just record the first hour and do live the second. Fine. So the first hour was very nerve-wracking. It was a really weird experience. I was listening to myself in the car, in Beirut, in traffic. And, oh God, I was like, and it was weird because in the car came by and they were listening to the show and they were laughing. I was like, oh God, this is working. I was so nervous.
Yeah.
And when you hear yourself like you're on the air, it's a whole different feeling, but it's important. And I've trained all the presenters since then. You need to do that. You need to listen to yourselves.
Do you give them points as far as what they should be paying attention to? Like, are you saying?
The first thing is, overall, just listen to it. And listen to it on a low volume. Get the calls. If you get a call or if you're talking with your friends in the car, do that. Don't go, hey, I need to listen to this. No.
What do you want them to listen for?
Just the whole thing. First of all, you as a person in the car, would you listen to this? Would this grab your ear? We used to give this example of grabbing. Would this grab your ear? I'll give you an example. You could be sitting in a coffee shop, right? You and your friends, and then someone next to you says, I don't know, what do you like? What's one thing that will really grab your attention?
Somebody talking about a hit movie or a hit song or,
Michael Jackson is your favorite singer, right? Imagine next to you, you're having a chat with friends and so you hear someone go, did you hear about Michael Jackson? You're going to go in your mind, I need to listen to this. What is he talking about? Right?
Yep.
That raised your interest. That grabbed your attention because you like Michael Jackson. The point is, radio presenters at the time, you need to grab the attention without having to mention a certain person or an event. Your voice needs to be the attention because people, listening to the radio.
Yeah, the focus is different.
They need to pull up and go, although he's not saying anything important, but he's about to say something. It feels like he's about to say something. Anticipation. Yeah. There is something there that he's about to say. And what is he going to say? But you better say something interesting. That's why shorter is better. So listen to that and then listen to yourselves. Are you convinced by what you're saying?
Yep.
And this is where you have to work then a lot. Detach, that's the word I was looking for earlier. Detach the ego. It doesn't have to be this, overblown ego. Just detach the ego from yourself when you're listening. Listen if you can as a neutral person, which is a difficult thing for a lot of people to do.
Yeah, of course.
But they need to. And this is another thing. Whoever is on radio or on television, it's important to understand their mindset as well, their psyche. Yes, a lot of them are ego-driven, and I've worked with, maybe 1 out of 10 really have a, humble, down-to-earth personality. I love those, but they still deliver. You expect 9 out of 10 egos, but it's also managing those egos as someone radio, television.
About that, how do you manage egos?
Because that's a tricky one.
Before we get to that, I just want to bridge your career being on air. In radio, to then it sounds like you shifted.
Shifted to management for sure.
To management, but did you have an eye? Obviously, you started to get more into talent development or idea development.
Correct.
How long did it take between the I'm on air as the jock to the now I'm managing that talent?
There's no time frame. It's a natural progression.
Did that start in Lebanon?
That started in Lebanon.
Okay.
Very inspirational place at the time.
Yep. I don't doubt that at all.
Crazy place. Yeah. So that means your thoughts, you could think about almost anything and everything. There was no limitations. You could swear on the radio.
Yep.
People did. I did a few times. You did that in Lebanon. And it was seen at the time in Lebanon as you're not cool if you didn't, because they thought that is real. That is raw.
It was rebellious. It was
not necessarily rebellious. It was real and raw, and it's direct, and he's being honest. That's the guy I want to listen to.
But were you honest? Because sometimes people confuse honesty. Like, you could have a normal conversation. I could relay a message to you without cursing.
Yeah.
But some people lean into that cursing. Suddenly, it's a scapegoat. It's like they mistake cursing for like, oh, it's raw. Do you know what I mean? Like it becomes a vehicle.
Cursing, just like comedy. Just like humor, it's the context that's in. So you could make fun of like you laughed earlier about counting bombs instead of sheep.
Yeah.
But it's the context of
For
it.
sure. Yeah.
So that was funny.
There's a lot. I mean,
but if you were to say that now and go, "Oh, they're counting bombs. That's how they sleep," it's not funny. It's actually insulting.
Yeah.
But the way you put it in the context, that's what makes it acceptable.
Yeah, for sure.
Same thing happens with swearing.
Yeah.
So, they were talking, if you're talking about something that, people are disturbed about. I'm sure now, after this bomb blast that took place in Beirut, radio jocks over there are probably swearing day and night.
Yeah.
And that's seen as acceptable because it's a frustrating thing. They're letting out their frustration. It's a form of expression, if you like.
Yeah,
but people
for sure.
get it. If you don't swear now in Lebanon, they're going to think he's acting.
Yeah.
He's putting on an act. He's trying to be polite, but
Right.
doesn't work now because all the rules are broken now. All the bets are off the table. So in that context, it works. So at the time, it was coming out of a war. Lebanon was, the Lebanese were discovering their party libido, if you like, again, once more. Again, all bets were off the table.
Yeah.
There was no form of, structure at the time, but it was getting there. But it was interesting. That's what made it seem fun. What makes Lebanon an interesting place when it is interesting is what I call organized chaos.
I know all about organized chaos, but yeah, I feel you.
So organized chaos works with Lebanon.
Yeah.
So that's what made it interesting. So that progression from, as a jock, you need to be creative. You can't sound boring. You can't repeat the same things over and over. You need to reach out. And how do you get inspired by that? Eventually it becomes, again, the habit we're talking about earlier. Even if you go out for a sandwich or you go for a drive, go out for a drive in Beirut. You have 10 stories to tell.
Yeah.
So the place, it brings it out. It's all over. There's stories everywhere. You just need to have an eye for detail and the ears to really pick it up. So if your mental motor, if you like, is tuned to that environment, you'll pick it up.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't notice it. So if you're not married, you're not going to notice married people.
Yeah.
The minute you get married, you're going to notice couples. Oh, there's a lot of couples around. No, it's because your antenna is now tuned to that.
Yeah.
Same thing. So there's a lot of stories to tell, and you pick it up from there. And it's so easy being a radio jock in Lebanon because you can tell 200 stories a day.
Not any Joe Schmo can be on radio. I mean, yes, while there are a lot of stories being told, but if you're not tuned to that, you're not going to know what to do with it.
That is correct. The world needs storytellers.
Yeah, for sure. And it's clear that you're one of those. So the question is, at what point did you feel like you've either outgrown the place or it was time to do the next thing for you?
That was very easy. So I got into radio and doing television at the same time. When you do television in Lebanon, things get a little bit serious, even if you're doing sports.
Yeah.
So you get invited to more places. You get more exposure to certain people. You have more responsibility on your shoulders. And I never did news. I never did any of that. I wasn't interested in it. But I started to pick up on some things. And I have a sort of a journalistic instinct. So I started to film documentaries. Fell in love with documentaries, started to film documentaries. I wanted to do everything. So I did a few documentaries. And one of the documentaries I was filming was about, I called it My Generation. And I started to write a book about it. In 98. I called it My Generation.
Was it in Arabic?
No, in English.
Okay.
I didn't finish the book, and here's why. I started writing My Generation and filming a documentary about it at the same time. Book and documentary. This was a real challenge. I thought I need to up the game here because I was always challenging myself.
Yeah.
I don't like to use the word challenge. I think it's a natural progression people have to take.
Challenge is fine.
I don't. Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with the word challenge.
It sounds like an NBA game, Michael
no,
Jordan.
Listen. I mean, again, wordsmithing.
You don't wake up in the morning and go, "I'm going to challenge myself this morning." No, it's like, what makes me wake up today?
It's your drive. It's what
it's
drives
the drive.
you. Yeah.
What's going to make me? I need this drive for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
I want to do something I haven't done before.
Okay.
So we did all the radio thing, all the jockeying thing, got into management a bit, but right before, in between this and that, or in between being a jock and getting into management, I decided to go into documentaries. I was still doing the voiceovers.
Yeah.
A lot of them were cinema trailers.
Yeah.
So for 4 years, they thought he was gone until Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford, that's not cool. Can we tone down the voice a bit? So it was stuff like that. I did some cartoon characters, which was the dream, by the way.
Yeah.
That was the most fun.
So you're a storyteller, that's clear. When did writing start for you?
Again, another natural progression. You go through the audio, you go through the filming, and you think, writing looks good.
Here's what I'm trying to do, Farid. I'm trying to, clearly you're a born storyteller. Obviously your environment had something to do with it. So you're trying to express yourself through all these mediums, right?
Yeah.
You get into writing. We're doing My Generation. As far as documentaries, was there someone that was doing something that you thought was cool? I'm trying to get a sense for your taste. How did you develop your taste in storytelling? Obviously, there's a unique story. You're from Lebanon. You lived in Nigeria, came back to Lebanon. And Lebanon by itself is very open to the West, and et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any influences at that time that you either were trying to emulate? Because whether we know it or not, all ideas are not quote unquote original. They come from somewhere. I'm just trying to get a sense for early inspirations. Like what kept you inspired? Obviously it's a very inspiring place being there. Were there directors? Were there figures?
I like Michael McConaughey said at the Oscars.
Yeah.
Matthew.
Yeah.
Said something interesting. His idol was himself in 5 years and himself in 10 years. I totally understand what this guy was talking about. And that's why I get disappointed when there's something I want to do in 5 years, not even 5 years, maybe in 6 months or in 3 weeks or something, and I don't get it. It angers me. And it's good to have that fire in your belly because you want to go out there again and do better. Never, ever, ever give up, no matter what you're doing. No matter how much you fail, don't ever give up. That's my motto in life. There's no way I would ever give up on anything I'm doing, anything I believe in, even if I have to suffer for it, and I have many occasions, I will still go after it no matter what, because I know I'm going to get it.
So what drives you then?
The drive is, first of all, it's yourself.
I know, but
it's you want to, basically, first of all, the basic thing is survival. And what I mean by survival, you want to feel alive. What's the point of living if you don't feel alive?
Right.
That's number one. That gives me the drive. Some people you don't need to. Some people need to be, they need to see someone, do something, whatever. You just wake up, you think, I want to get this done. It makes me feel alive, makes me feel good. Without it, I feel down. I don't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
I've never felt that, really. I've always had something to do. Even if you're not getting it, you just keep going after it, no matter what. There's a way, there's a structure, there's a way. You got to be organized about it. You got to have a plan about it. Plan it, put the logic. Again, common sense, logic, and experience. What I call the 3 forgotten ingredients need to be applied to avoid a disaster of whatever you're doing.
Yep.
So I applied that in the documentaries I was doing. And what inspired me with those documentaries was the fact there was a story to be told nobody was telling.
Yeah.
I thought about making a movie. No, that was too complicated, too costly. Nobody was going to support that. I was going to film this documentary. You take your time. You have your camera, which I did. I was sleeping next to a camera for 2 years. I had a camera with me, 3-chip Sony. I'll never forget that. Really good cameras. Filming everything. I had it with me, next to me, everywhere. And I did that. So I was filming. I got to the point where I was filming regular people. And now I started filming politicians.
Yeah.
And that's when the shit hit the fan.
What kind of shit?
All sorts. That's when I started to find things out about Lebanon. Mm-hmm. I call it looking behind the curtain. There's a curtain everywhere. Once you figure out what's behind the curtain, you either accept it and you go, this is cool, or you go, I need to get out of here.
So, what was behind the curtain?
A lot of stuff. I wasn't going to sit down and think about it. And when I sort of peeked behind the curtain, because I was having access now. Remember, I'm doing radio, working in a network. I'm doing TV documentaries. I had access to people now. Sometimes you think, I wish I never knew. But I'm the kind of guy, I do want to know. Do I spend the next 10 years in this country or not? So I decided to get out in 98. It took me until 99 to get out of there.
Going to?
I went to the US straight.
What part?
California. And then I got a job in Washington.
DC.
How
long were you in California for?
Months on and off.
What part?
LA and San Jose.
Okay.
And that was interesting. That was an eye-opener as well. Not too shocking, obviously, but that was interesting. It was different from,
Sure.
And LA was exciting. definitely, you've been there. It's the movie capital of the world. Everybody's an actor or director or producer or scriptwriter. Everyone has a pilot to do.
Definitely vibrant.
Very vibrant.
Yeah.
Washington is completely different. It's all political. Just the opposite. You take that. And
I'm familiar with both. I spent 15 years in LA, in DC, and 13 years in LA. So I'm familiar with both coasts. So in DC, what did you get into?
I got into VOA, which is the Voice of America. We rebranded Voice of America in the Middle East, called it Radio Sawa. A lot of people might be familiar with that. Worked with that for 8 years.
In what capacity?
I was head of the channel.
Okay.
So my job was to launch 9 radio stations across 16 countries.
In Arabic and non-Arabic?
It was a combination of Arabic, English music.
Okay.
But everything spoken was in Arabic.
For all 9 channels?
For all 16 countries. It was 9 channels, 9 streams rather, across 16 countries, which later became like 20 countries.
Can you name some of the countries that you covered at that
Every
time?
Arab country. I'll tell you one was the ones, it's easier to say the ones we didn't cover.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So Mauritania, we didn't cover Mauritania.
Yeah.
We did cover Somalia.
And it was all broadcast from DC?
Broadcast from here to DC and back for legal reasons.
So the talent was here.
Talent was everywhere. Here, Lebanon, Egypt, Jordan. It was a great bunch of people to work with. Probably the most professional I've ever worked with.
Okay.
And the most fun years I've had.
In terms of formats.
Yeah.
What's the span of formats that you covered?
That was the first radio that introduced a mixture of English, Arabic on a regional scale, and everybody said, "You guys are crazy. This will never work."
I feel like Lebanon, because again, we go back to the fact that a lot of Lebanese either have family elsewhere or they themselves have gone elsewhere. Mm-hmm. It makes sense from a format to have an English, Arabic. I can't think of many other.
It didn't make sense in the 90s, and you're a music guy, and here's why. And let's be very blunt about this. So in the 90s, if you had a Michael Jackson song or a Madonna song,
you couldn't follow it up with.
You couldn't follow it up with Ya Habibi, and you couldn't put the Wa'al Kfouri at the time.
The production was
was different. Yeah. Then around 2000, 2001 and 2, we had geniuses like Hadi Sharara, for example, step up.
He completely changed the face
Hadi
of music.
Sharara is my favorite producer in the whole Middle East, with all due respect. There's a lot of great producers.
Not that many. No, there aren't that many.
Hadi is an artist.
For me, من الآخر, Hadi Sharara, Omar Sabagh are...
Omar Sabagh, for example.
I mean, two of the very few.
Jean-Marie is quite good as well.
Jean-Marie's okay. I think he peaked, and he's, I say that with no disrespect, but his best days are behind him.
You think so?
For sure.
He's done a lot, though.
He's done
a lot.
Done. He's not doing.
There's so many reasons. You'll have to speak to him about it.
For sure. I'll tell you.
Is there a music industry right now?
It doesn't matter. Listen, Hadi Sharara has been quiet for a second, but when he releases, you feel the impact.
Hadi's released enough music to last.
It doesn't matter.
Only again, 30 producers to sort of produce what he's done.
I'm not interested in released ED. I'm more concerned with releasing and what's he going to release.
Hadi's a river.
No. Listen,
of production.
Let me make it super clear.
Maybe he's just closed the tap for a bit.
But I'm saying Hadi Sharara is still relevant. I don't know that Jean-Marie is. That's all I'm trying to establish. I'm not saying that he's not good. He's excellent. He's a great producer.
Yeah.
But I feel like I said, I think his best days are behind him. Hadi Sharara has been quiet, but when he releases, you feel it. Omar Sabagh, for, I don't want to say for lack of competition. I'm not trying to downplay what he does, because he's excellent. He's very good. Yep. And it sounds like there's a few up and coming producers. But in Lebanon, those 3. Okay. Songwriting, etc. That's something else, but So
what about the up and coming producers? Is there anyone, I don't want to call them up and coming, the new ones, meaning the last 6 years?
They exist, but they're all trying to emulate the Omar Sabagh sound. You remember, there was a time when Hadi Sharara, anything he touched was a hit. So you wanted to hit.
Our airplay was Hadi Sharara, basically.
If you wanted to hit, where did you go? You went to Hadi.
First place.
Today, that person is Omar Sabagh. Again, not to take any credit away from Hadi. I feel like in the case of Hadi, it's probably because he doesn't feel like it. Which
he's done it for 25 years.
But I'm saying
30 years.
He sits on a crown and he can pick and choose whatever project. Yeah. He's not doing it for money. He does it because he wants to. I'm assuming, mind you, I don't know him personally.
I know him personally.
Yep.
the number one reason he does it because he needs that release and because this is what he loves and that's his passion. And the guy is creative off the scale.
I get it.
So he does it because you need to let it out.
For sure. But I'm saying
or else he's going to go run on the beach.
He's been quiet. What I'm trying to establish is there was a time where you wanted a sure hit. You went to Hadi.
Yeah.
That's not where we are today. That person that occupies that space today in Lebanon, and in fact in the region, is Omar al-Sabah. But I feel like Omar al-Sabah is now starting to repeat himself, not taking any credit away from what he does, because I think he's super talented.
Then everybody's repeating.
For sure.
There's nothing new that came out and took people, like sort of a wow.
I get it. And look,
the wow factor isn't there anymore.
It's a double-edged sword because here's the thing. Historically that's happened. You go to, Teddy Riley when he was big, Babyface when he was big. You don't go to Babyface.
But people have phases.
No, I get that. But I'm saying like there are very few producers who can transcend, fads and trends and stuff. You have the Pharrell Williams. You have the, who were big in the 90s and managed to carry over to the 2000s. Max Martin, who is my favorite producer.
Yeah.
That guy started early 90s. He's still relevant today. And it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy. That's probably one of the hardest things.
George Martin of the Beatles was relevant for 30 years.
For sure. And mind you, speaking of George Martin, Max Martin is second only to George Martin in terms of number of number one songs and number of number one produced songs.
Are you measuring it by
I'm not
the
measuring
charts?
Yes, for sure.
What about the works itself? Because certain works don't make it to number one. They don't have to make it to number one.
No, they don't. But I'm saying that Max Martin.
It's about the artistic quality.
For sure. But listen, the fact that you can have a career as a producer that spans 20 years, that's not easy. I'm saying Hadi has been able to do that. I hope I'm going to consistently.
Yeah, that's the key word there in anything.
That's what I'm saying. And I'll go back to Jean-Marie. Jean-Marie owned the late 90s to early 2000s and maybe into the late 2000s. But after 2010, he's not as effective as he once was. Again, it is my feeling that his best days are behind him. He might have a few hits left in him, maybe. Hadi Sharara is still on top. Omar al-Sabah now that's what I was trying to establish, is that Omar al-Sabah is now where Hadi Sharara was. And I feel like that's mostly because
people come and go. It's natural.
For sure. But we'll go back to the sound. I feel like we went off on a tangent. So the sound definitely morphed from not being able to play in English into an Arabic song. And then Hadi Sharara came, and let's call it, Hadi, Jean-Marie, and a few others.
Yeah.
So that made it easier to be able to play Arabic.
Exactly. That was easy it didn't sound weird anymore playing David Guetta.
Yeah.
I love David Guetta. Playing David Guetta. Such a radio-friendly.
He is, but he's a thief.
Artist.
He's a thief.
He's a thief. But is that what we
No. But
are we shutting down thieves on the radio? Radio as a business wants to play good music.
For sure, but I hate someone who takes credit for something they don't do.
Well, that's where all your legal protection and all that comes into play. But radio has nothing to do with that.
I understand. They want good songs. They want good songs.
They want good songs. They want to entertain the audiences. They want to maintain your attention. So that's when English and Arabic was, we could play them back to back.
Yeah.
And the reason we did that as well at the time was we had great respect for Arabic artists as well. We're saying Arabic artists have never been given an international respect. All right, maybe the language. It's difficult for someone. Would you listen to Chinese music, for example? Difficult for you to do that, right? So Arabic was obviously not accepted. We don't think it's going to be accepted worldwide, but it deserves the respect because a lot of production is going to this.
Yep.
A lot of money was being thrown at it. There was a proper, if you like, record industry, not in the very organized, structured sense, but there was. They were spending. There was the Rotanas of this world where we're spending money on albums. They were actually putting money into art.
It was never an issue of budget. It was really, for me.
But later on, now
it was a mindset. It was a mindset
since the digital age came in, that affects it as well.
Of course, but listen,
no one does albums anymore. They do singles.
There's no record sales. There was a time where people pirated here regardless, but sales has a lot to do. It's dollars and cents.
It's a business at the end. Yeah, of course it is, but it's also if you want to do business, you have to, people have to like what you're doing. It's like when when you release a movie, they go, it bombed. People didn't like the movie,
Yeah.
or wasn't marketed, promoted properly. I don't know. Something happened. Look for it. So going back to, so I left Lebanon. Yeah, definitely did that with Sawa. Came back here. Moved to Dubai actually.
What year is this?
2002. So I was given a choice of move to Dubai, and the second I landed here, I just fell in love with the place. I've still been in love with the place for 18 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's a long time.
That's a long time to be in love.
And it was
with anyone or anything.
It was definitely on the rise. Things were fresh and changing every 2 months. It's evolving. It's such a dynamic city.
It's the whole country, really. It's a beautiful country. You can grow your passions here. You can go after your dreams. It's up to you to get it done. All the opportunities are there. You have to also do the work. Anywhere you go in the world, you have to, realize what the potentials are, what the opportunities are. You have to put two and two together and work hard.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the world. So yeah, that's how it was.
So you got here in 2002. What did you get yourself into?
Still with Radio Sawa. We launched it here as well.
Here, got it. Okay.
Yeah, so our headquarters was here, and this was the right place for it. And did that for 8 years.
8 years.
8 years.
Wow.
And then moved to Abu Dhabi. I had a chance to go to Washington to move. I didn't want to move to Washington and work in television. I was giving that opportunity.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that. I was in love with the UAE.
I don't blame you.
My kids were born here, and I wanted them to be born here.
I fully understand it. Listen,
I wanted them to grow up here.
I think in the region, this is the only country, let's just say city. I feel like Dubai is the ideal place in the region in terms of this is about as good as it's going to get.
In the region?
For now. Yeah.
It's the leader, man.
Yeah.
It's the leader. So
without a doubt, for sure.
Yeah, and it will always be. The UAE will be the leader in this, in everything they do. So whether it's media, music, science, technology, you name it, you can get it done here, okay? COVID is not going to affect anything here. In fact, I feel safer here than I would anywhere else in the world. We're lucky to be here at this time.
I'd have to second that, for sure.
Lucky to be here. No science is being, every kind of science is being, uncovered and put out there and worked on and all of that sort of thing. And so yeah, lucky to be here.
So after Sawa, what did we do?
After Sawa, it was Abu Dhabi Star FM. So that 92 dream in the bedroom was, and I started working on the logo in 2006 actually.
Came full circle.
2-3 years, came full circle.
What year is this? 2000 and?
So 2009.
10?
The negotiation started in 2008.
Okay.
Launched in 2009.
Wow.
Yeah, it didn't just like that.
Yeah.
So, but by that time...
In what capacity did you...
Head of channel as well.
Head of channel.
Founder, head of channel. So we did that for 3 years. Very interesting times.
The format, again, here is...
Format was
Arabic,
English, Arabic. And at the time, it made sense as well. There was demand for that. That's already, so people are not shocked. They already know that, Sawa and one or two others have done that. It's acceptable. It has to be acceptable to the listeners' mind.
You had broken into the country.
Exactly. And I knew how to do that best. So I didn't want to do an all Arabic or an all English. There was a lot of, all English. There's a lot of all Arabic.
Yeah.
There was no English Arabic on that scale and that sort of commercial way of presenting it.
What do you think was the key to the success of that station when you guys launched?
What came out was tight, exciting, interesting. That's what the audience were saying. It's not me talking. I never, listened to myself. I know you will know at the end of the day what sounds right or not. At the end of the day, you have to listen to the audience. The people have to, project what they like. And that's how they described it. And you have to talk to people all the time, not just friends and family. I never even do friends and family, by the way. I talk to strangers about it. And that was the success of Sawa, by the way. We went as far as Morocco. We spoke to strangers, and they would tell you, So we did research as well. We did actual scientific research at the time. So after that, the entrepreneur person in me kicked in. So I've had this long dream before. I wanted to do my own production,
which is WEDO Media.
Which, no, before WEDO Media was something else.
What
that
was
shall
it?
remain unnamed.
It's not creatine?
It is.
I just named it for you.
That was successful when it first came out. It was interesting. It was filming. I wanted to get into filming.
So talk to me about creatine. What was that?
It's like a relationship you don't want to talk about. But it was.
I'm interested. Why not?
It was. It's your first startup is always going to be the one that you try to do at your best, but you know that at some point you will need. Let's go back to common sense, logic, and experience. If you apply that across, common sense is, okay, let's do something that we know what to do. Production.
Yeah.
That's the common sense. Logic is, the logic would be, I'm going to produce, but there's so many people producing.
Explain producing here, because I feel...
What sets me apart? Producing videos, producing TV shows, filming, basically.
Yep.
We put that under the umbrella of production, produce. So if you're going to do that, others are doing that. What sets you apart? So that's the logic comes in here, and a bit of experience. So the experience is when you get into trouble, you go, oh God, I need someone who's done 2 startups before. What happens now?
Yeah.
Because you're going to run out of money.
And
what happens?
In terms of clientele, were you going after a specific sector?
That's where the experience needs to come in.
Okay.
So you have the experience, but the experience of doing it on your own full flow. Yeah, so I was going after a certain sector. And then I've done 2 more startups since then. Now WEDO Media. It's been their 3rd year.
So what are the 2 between?
We're one of the 5% who lasted 3 years. So far, so good.
What are the 2? Just even if we don't get into the details, between creatine and WEDO Media, what were those?
Those were trial and error ones, interesting ones. Mostly it was creatine going to WEDO Media. But there were some projects I would call... there were certain side projects you do. So for example, I got into digital. App development is an area I wanted to learn all about. Ended up developing like 5 apps. Interesting, fantastic, loved it. At the beginning, I'll never touch that. Not coding. There's a lot more than just coding. People think apps is about coding.
No,
a lot more than that. So there's a lot of creative input in there.
That's my world. So.
That's your exactly. So that gets, juices flowing.
Yeah.
So you develop apps, you put the idea, it's got to be that one idea. How do you put that into play? How to make it work? Yeah, you do that. So that was another one. And you realize in startups is you need to focus 110%. I know it's a bit of a cliche to say that. You could just say 100. They understood 100. They know scale for it. You don't have to say 110.
Some people get that it's that extra. Let's call it extra.
You got to give it the extra. People always never think you've given 100%. Never ever think, oh, I've given 100%. What else can I do? There's always something else you can do. Always. So that's the reality of it. You learn that after the first startup, especially on the second.
Yeah.
And then WEDO had a plan well before launching. And this is another advice for those who have never done a startup before. Don't start your business unless you have business in place.
Explain that.
We had that. So
explain that.
At WEDO, right, what do we need to do? This is the cost of launching this. This is the cost of operating costs for the next 6 months. By now, I know this, off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
We get a project that will cover that, or projects that will cover that, and then you get the license. Don't go getting licensed at an office and go, oh, we're open for business. Don't ever do that.
Before we dive any deeper, can you just quickly explain what WEDO Media does?
We film TV shows, online shows. We did that. We film certain TV ads or social media, as they call them now, for specific clients.
Yep.
There's a lot of clients we said no to.
Based on what? Other than budget sometimes. I mean, I know it's not all budget.
I don't even look at the budget because I expect everyone to say we have a tight budget.
For sure.
Have you ever walked into a room where they say, we have an open-ended budget. Can you please help us spend it?
You'd be surprised.
Show me those people. Introduce me to them.
I will. They do exist.
Do they exist now?
They exist. They're not plenty, but they do exist. Now, the reason I ask is, while it's not all about budgets, sometimes budget is a consideration as to why
it is.
you might take
I love
something
the
on.
budget thing. Even if it's a small budget, you have to come up with a small. You have to
be creative about how to
with a small budget. I've had those. I had one yesterday. So if these things happen, and then sometimes there's a small budget that the client thinks is small. To us, it's actually big because it can be done this way. We don't have to spend 3 weeks on it. This can be done in 48 hours, and it can be a lot of fun to do that. So at the end of the day, you're not paying for the final product. You are, in a way, you're paying for the message. You're paying for what that message is saying. And you can call it creative. You can call it whatever you want to call it. It's the message. Sometimes it's a very simple thing. I always go back to the example of Sinead O'Connor, her video clip. Nothing compares to you. It was her face and a teardrop is coming down. That made more sense. That became like the clip of the year.
It's such an iconic,
one shot. And you had people spending millions of dollars on, elaborate, productions. It didn't work.
There's a time and place for all this.
So same thing goes with this. What we do is we create our own products. We don't go knocking on doors. We need work. We create our products, and you can be part of the product. So if it's a show about cars, if it's a show about technology, if it's a show about entertainment, you can be part of a part of the product. Yes, we do have. We like to keep our clientele base limited.
What's the criteria?
The criteria, it needs to be something fun to work on. That's our number one criteria, because we're going to give the maximum out of that. It needs to be quirky. Let me describe quirky. It needs to be something where the client goes, guys, don't give me ordinary. Oh, we fly with that stuff. Oh, like, well, we're going to do it for free almost. No, of course, but we'll do it at cost. Because you want that sometimes. That's the criteria, basically. Now, clients could be difficult. It's not a problem. Not a problem. We had 2 months ago, we had to re-edit 12 times. 24 times.
Lovely.
Over the course of 2 weeks. No problema. But because it was it was something fun we love to do. So we did that. We have, so that's what we work on. Now you think, how can you sustain yourself with that? That's where the management comes in. I never found a problem with operating costs. You have to know what you're good at. So that is not a problem. You can live on, it's like you're living at home. You can live on $10 a day. You can live on $1,000 a day. It's a choice.
Yeah, for sure. Why WEDO Media? What's the story behind the name?
I don't know. It just clicked. I was sitting in a conversation.
That's what I love about you, by the way. While some people might perceive you as someone who talks a big game. You're a dreamer. I noticed that about you. You have big ideas, even if sometimes it's like, he'll never do that.
You need to.
But a lot of people frown upon, like, okay, he's all talk. But I realized early on about you is you've backed it up. Even if you've come up with 100 ideas and only 3 of those worked, those 3 do scale, do have an impact. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Where you have people who just like talk like, oh, I'd love to do this. You are someone who does. You are someone who gets results, which I love. And I feel like that differentiates you from a lot of people who are good talkers. You are a smooth talker. You are someone, obviously, who's a storyteller. You're very passionate and you're very
charming me now, Zan?
I'm not at all. No, listen, because I feel like there's a stigma. There's a stigma about people that, I don't want to say do what you do, but like in that line of work, especially, that claim to do a million things. I'm just saying that I appreciate that it's in your case, which is rare. It's not all talk, and there's actual gems in there, which
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Zan. Yes, there is some. Listen, you got to have the talk, and the talk is an extension of your dream, which is your passion, which is what you would like to do. Because, like we spoke earlier, I understand the meaning of life is too short. A lot of experiences that have led me to that. It doesn't just pop in your head, oh, life is too short. No. Experience and a lot of heartbreak has led me there. I'm not talking about relationship heartbreak here. It goes way deeper than that. When you understand that, and I'm not saying everybody who needs to do something needs to suffer in life, but that's the process you go through. People go through a process sometimes. So when you understand life is too short, you want to make the best out of it. That's the kick. That's the kick I get. Two is that you have a passion for something, you love to do something. I ask my kids all the time, what do you love to do? And they might say, we don't know. That's fine. But one day they will know.
Yeah.
And you try to help them out in a way without pushing it. But they know what they want. At that age, 10 and 8, they love singing, for example.
Yeah.
My kid loves to do certain things. He wants to do a YouTube show and he knows exactly what he wants to do. Just let them alone. They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So once you have the passion, you understand the meaning of time. And you want to push yourself. And what I mean is not pressure yourself, push yourself. Get this done better. Do this one better. That's what happened with startups and everything. It's an extension. I wanted to do it better. And how can I improve it? What's the formula? And it took me about working alone, 7 years, only 7 years, thank God, to figure out the formula.
But that's the beautiful thing. Look, it's not easy. It'll break you.
Yeah.
It'll test you.
Yeah.
It'll do a lot of things to you. But what I appreciate about, and again, this goes back into, you're not afraid. Look, you'll have doubts, and doubts, having doubts is perfectly okay. Mm-hmm. But what I appreciate about what you're doing, regardless of how you measure how successful or not it is, you're not afraid. And there's a difference between being fearless and having courage. It's clear that you have a lot of courage, which I commend you for.
Fear is not an option. So we go back to early childhood. We grew up watching people getting killed, literally.
Yep.
Literally getting killed in front of us, bombs dropping. We didn't understand what was going on. Later on in life, you go, oh my God, was I there? Yes, I was. Why wasn't I scared? It becomes part of you. So you reach down to that experience. That's the experience we're talking about here.
For sure.
You reach down to that and you take that dark memory and you turn it into a strength. You go, I was a kid and bombs were falling. I wasn't scared. Why am I?
That's the worst, yeah.
Why am I even doubting, should I launch this? And I haven't got any money to do that. Why? No, just do it. Get it done.
Yeah.
So you do that. So you just do it. Just get it done. So it took me until now to figure out the formula.
Yeah.
It's never too late.
What's next for WEDO Media?
WEDO Media continues to grow slowly. I want it to grow slowly. Growing fast doesn't help.
Yeah.
Because you cannot.
There are drawbacks for sure.
You can't control the outside environment. So you need to always have something that create a need that people want.
Yep.
And I've been to so many opening meetings or certain sort of presentations where startups are coming in and somebody will ask them, what problem are you solving? Because they read that somewhere.
Yeah, it's words they throw around. Yeah.
Yeah. What problem are you solving? Dude, I film shows. There is no problem. Okay. I'm just here I'm bringing some creative input into the environment.
We're not curing cancer.
We're not curing cancer. And I'm sure I'm going to get an audience. They will probably hopefully like this. This is what I'm, hoping to do. That's my ambition, if you like.
Yeah.
So we want to grow slowly, but I always like to bring in things that I'm lucky to have partners I have. They're very creative, super creative people. And we always like to bring something to the table that we don't look at the others. You don't look at your competitors, compete with yourself and bring something to the table you haven't brought in before.
Yeah.
That's the fun part. That's what makes you want to get up in the morning and go, we want to do this. So next is, I'm not going to be one of those that says, projects we cannot discuss right now for NDA reasons. But yeah, they'll be filming around the region. Obviously, it's all about filming. But you have to create a product that is related to media. And that's what we're looking for. We finally cracked the code, if you like.
Awesome.
So it'll be out in 2021. Looking forward to that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that came during the COVID era, by the way.
Listen, there's a lot of good and bad that comes out of it. It's how you twist it, right?
Yeah.
One final closing question.
Yeah.
If you could go back and tell your 5-year-old self something, what would you say to yourself? 5, or pick an age that was a very pivotal turning point in your life. What would you tell yourself?
I would say at the age of 12, when you got the pass in the final, don't get nervous. Just hit it in the corner. You'll score.
A good one. I love that.
That's it.
That's the most creative answer I've gotten to that question.
Nothing else to worry about.
Farid, thank you so much for your time, man.
Thanks,
I appreciate
man.
it.
Thank you, Zan.
That was great, man. Thanks.
Thank you.